Right, so the first game of the season has concluded, and for the first time in over a year, Arsenal have kicked a ball without it being exploited for an Amazon documentary. And what an advert for the Premier League that was. 2-0 at Selhurst Park. Obviously, going into this game, there were flashbacks to the start of last season. Arsenal away against a team they definitely should be beating, but will they? They did this time, funnily enough. It was 2-0 in the end, and like a lactose intolerant, the floodgates opened with a corner. Zinchenko peeled off to the back post, nodded it across, and Martinelli put it into what can only be described as Crystal Palace's net. That's because it was Crystal Palace's net. Speaking of Zinchenko, he played quite a similar role as to what he used to play back at Manchester City during this game. He'd often drift into the middle, try and link up the play. Obviously, a lot of people think that he can become a full-time midfielder rather than only part-time with his country. And then Xhaka would drop into the left-back position, but often not quite high enough, meaning there was a large amount of space in behind Zinchenko and Xhaka for the attacking players to exploit. It just so happened that the attacking player was Ayew, so I guess the risk versus reward was pretty easy to weigh up. Especially in the first half, we saw a lot of intensity with Arsenal's attacking play, a lot of fluidity with Jesus, Xhaka, Martinelli linking up and Saka pulling really wide out on that right-hand side. It just seemed that they were just running out of room. No one was pulling the trigger early enough, and they get into Crystal Palace's box, and it would sort of become a little bit scruffy at times. Obviously, Martinelli, before his goal, flashing a ball across the post. Close, but no cigar. Football players shouldn't be smoking. And at the other end, during the first half, Crystal Palace rarely posed a threat, really. Ramsdale with a pretty decent save just before half-time, a close-range header, but really should be saving that. It was clear that Crystal Palace were trying that switch from the right-hand side to the left over to Zaha, but it just wasn't quite clicking during that first half, and Arsenal went in at the break 1-0 up. Job's a good one. And as we carried on into the second half, and unlike my early teenage years, this game was dominated by the left-hand side, with Zaha versus Ben White, a brilliant battle that will go down in the history books as football that happened today. Now, similar to there being a little bit of space in behind the left-hand side of Arsenal's defence for Ayew to run into, it became a lot more apparent that there was going to be a lot more success over on the right-hand side with Zaha attacking that space in behind Ben White. Ben White would constantly be marking Zaha very tightly, and it only took a spin off the shoulder for him to find that little bit of space to run into. And if there's someone you don't want to give space to, it's Zaha. Although Ben White did fairly well. It was either the switch over to the left-hand side just didn't have enough quality, or Zaha would want it into feet more often, trying to run at Ben White. It just felt like if he just span off the shoulder a little bit more, really exploited that space, they might have had a few more chances, and they ended up having that chance when Zaha pulled into the middle, laid a beautiful cutting through ball through the defence, through Ben White and Saliba, into the path of Eze, and my God, score, maybe. Here's a tip. Score. 1-on-1 with the keeper. Just a luxurious right-hand side of that goal to just aim at. Just whip it in. And to be fair, Ramsdale came to the rescue. A decent save, but Eze really needs to be doing better. It felt like Crystal Palace grew into the game a little bit during that second half. Again, having a little bit of success on that left-hand side with Zaha. But it just felt there wasn't enough creativity. You've got a lot of creative players at Crystal Palace. You've got Eze, you've got Elise. I don't think he played today. You've got Zaha. You've got Ayew. I slagged him off a minute ago, but he can do something, and it just felt a little bit one-dimensional. And to be fair to Arsenal, they kept their shape, making Crystal Palace go along the sides and backwards. And although they may have lost control of the game around that 60-minute mark, they definitely managed to claw it back and kept Crystal Palace at bay and ended up getting a second goal of their own. The game became a little bit scrappy. It was the first 90 minutes of the Premier League, so I guess you can't really fault them. But it was Saka who, by the way, had Mitchell on toast the entire night. I am not a Premier League footballer, but I don't think Tyreek Mitchell is either, to be honest with you. I mean, bless him. He didn't have the best of games, I'll be honest with you. Losing the ball a couple of times, a few wayward passes, and just couldn't deal with the pace and trickery from Saka. He ended up skipping past him, whipping a ball into the box, smashing it across the front post, and Gueye Just into the wrong net, son. Into the wrong net. But, it's unlucky at the end of the day. But I think Arsenal definitely deserve the second goal. They definitely deserve the win. They look a lot more improved so far in the 90 minutes. And I think it's exciting times for Arsenal. But Crystal Palace and their fans, they shouldn't be too sad about this result. Arsenal are exciting. They got a lot of exciting players. Definitely the new additions added a lot of quality to this game. Jesus looked lively, constantly drawing fouls, constantly trying to get round defenders. Zinchenko, like I said, pulling the strings. Saliba as well. Not new signing, but new it back into the squad his first time into the Premier League. And he looked at home. He looked really strong. Definitely a one for the future, one to look out for. Crystal Palace, they cause them problems here and there. They've got a lot of creative players on their books. And I think they'll surprise a few this season. A lot of people think, they've now lost the young lad, Conor Gallagher. But there's still so much quality in Crystal Palace. And if Patrick Vieira can continue squeezing enough talent out of this squad, I think they'll be fine. I think they showed a good amount this evening. But yeah. It was great watching Crystal Palace for the first and only time this season, let's be honest. But anyway, Arsenal end the evening at the top of the table for the first time since the start of last season, because their club name begins with A. But no, they've pipped Bournemouth to first place. It was about time those lot got knocked down a peg or two, wasn't it? But you'll probably end the weekend at about 4th, I reckon. So enjoy it while it lasts, So, anyway, thank you very much for watching. Leave a like, or don't. And come back next time for another brilliant footballing breakdown. Yeah. I don't know how to end these, so